So, Pierre, is this a changing of the guard here, or is this a momentary blip?
Well, it's actually not much is happening if you take a step back and look at Apple in the perspective of the world. I look at on a daily basis. They, as Ed mentioned, they're down like about 20% from the high, 17% from their average value of the last 18 months. Look at Tesla, down 59%, Amazon down 30%, Google down 30%. So Apple on a relative basis is actually doing quite all right. There are a lot of reasons for that. They've done very well. They've grown through the last 5 years, earnings more than 20% per annum. And they've done very well in the recent context through the pandemic, through like inflationary pressure. They've had actually very strong demand. And then when investors look at Apple today, in this massive sell-off, that's actually more, of a quality name, like a safe haven for them, because they tend to consider that Apple still has like a pretty nice outlook, that revenue growth could continue. You have new product opportunities in AR, in autos. So like the longer term outlook for Apple still looks fairly attractive to investors. And that's the reason why I think the stock didn't do that bad.
So you're still confident in Apple's fundamentals. What about the broader tech sector? I mean, Saudi Aramco has leaped above all of them. And if you look at the top 6 companies by market cap, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, all behind an oil company.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question, and that's what I've been working on in the last few days. What are there opportunities, like names to buy in this like broad tech sell-off? And the way I like to think about it is, what really triggered the sell-off initially is inflation and the concern of interest rates going up. Because when you look at a very high growth company, if interests go up, it has a very negative effect on their valuation. Now, here's the way I'm thinking about it, Emily. A lot of these companies are actually fairly inflation-proof. So if you look at an Apple, a Microsoft, an Amazon, their ability to pass on cost is actually not too bad. So in an inflationary environment, they should actually grow faster because they'll be able to increase their prices with inflation. And so what I like doing...
Do you think investors are overreacting then?
Yes, I think that the investors' reaction is creating opportunities. And you need to look at these companies who have good pricing power, who have very strong market position, and who've been battered down in recent weeks, and actually even recent months, in the last 6 months. And you can find very interesting opportunities. Like the 3 or 4 that popped to my eyes today are Tesla, of course. The stock is trading on 45 times earnings. It's down from 140 times 6 months ago. And it's still up to grow like earnings 40 to 50% a year. Another one is TSMC, the chip manufacturer, down 35%. It's trading on 15 times earnings. And it has a better growth potential, in my view, than Apple. And then the other one interesting worth mentioning is actually NVIDIA, down almost 70% from the peak. And here again, a company that has a lot of pricing power, very strong leadership in their market. Everybody needs their chip, and they should actually do very well in the next few years. So I see opportunities in that sell-off.
Even in the midst, Pierre, of a supply chain shortage and a lockdown in China, I mean, NVIDIA, obviously Apple, NVIDIA is also exposed to that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good point. Like the next few months, or even the next couple of quarters, could be slightly challenging for these players. But I don't think you have any incremental negative news flow coming through on that front. So we are really in the deep of the supply constraint, and supply is now coming back. It's going to take time to get supply back, but it is already on the way up. And I think the situation in China, as much as it is like a dramatic disruption for a lot of these businesses, It's actually well understood. I mean, like Apple talked about it on their earnings call not so long ago, and investors are kind of putting their heads around that situation. So I tend to overlook that and think about, what are like the great compounding stories, like names that have this very high quality growth outlook and that have been like that have suffered so much in this pullback. And that's where I see the opportunities. But of course, you have to look through the next couple of quarters, maybe.